asked me to do this last week, so bear with me a little bit. Fun fact, I used to babysit Alex, actually. You remember that?
Yeah. You were terrible.
Yeah. I'll let you do whatever you want, though.
Maybe do short
Yeah, it's good to be here. It's good to see all you guys here. I know it's a lot easier to be doing something else right now, whatever that is. But it's cool. It's cool that you guys made the decision to come here this morning and try to create some brotherhood with other guys your age, and to try to grow your faith a little bit. I know some of you guys in here. I know these two are close to my age, but I'm a little older than you guys. But it looks like out there, like 21 to 25-year-olds, that was like the part of my life where I really needed something like this, and I kind of fell farther away from God, and just noticed when you don't have God in your life, a lot of things don't go the way that you envision them to. So I'll start off just introducing myself. Dustin Rethman. I grew up in Mariestown. I don't have like any crazy come to Jesus moment because I grew up with two very faithful parents. We were in church every Sunday. They did a very good job of raising me, of knowing who Jesus was and how I needed to have him in my life. So I always kind of do that, even when I got spiraled out of control a little bit. It was always in the back of my head that I knew I need Jesus, and I knew I need to give more time to him. So I have an older sister, Brandy. She lives in Lexington. She actually does quite a bit of missionary work over there, talking about God and sharing her faith, because she's got kind of the same story, just through her college years, just falling away from God, not having him as a priority in her life, and just mentally and physically, things just fall off, and you're not where you want to be in life. And then got a younger sister, Natalie, a younger sister, Heidi. Heidi Rethman. She's probably close to a lot of your guys' age. And a younger brother, Dane. He probably needs to hear this more than that's good. But so I grew up, went to Marion Local. I was the guy, the point guard on the basketball team, the quarterback on the football field. Everyone thought, had a lot of stuff going for me. And I did in high school. I worked hard. I really did. I had discipline, in the weight room when I wasn't, just getting shots up in the gym. I was at home shooting a lot. Just doing stuff that a lot of people, in the community didn't see. Probably a lot of, the guys growing up, the kid that they wanted to be. And, at the time, I don't think I was very good at realizing how blessed I was in that moment to have the talents and abilities that a lot of guys want, but just don't have. Not saying I was a pro stud like Nate over here or anything, but I was just that guy in my class that a lot of guys look to be the leader. You need a leader in your class, you need a leader on the court, a leader on the football field. And that was kind of the role and responsibility I took on when I was in high school. So I had that, and after high school, life's good. You win all these state championships in high school. I had a girlfriend. Relationships were good. Going out with friends every weekend. Life was perfect. What more did I need? But at the time, my only faith was really showing up to church on Sunday for an hour. And even then, 45 minutes out of that hour, I was probably zoned out, not thinking about God, not thinking about why I was actually there. During communion, definitely wasn't thinking about that ultimate sacrifice that Jesus made for us. His body and blood is right there, and I was staring at the wall thinking about what I was doing after church. And that was a lot of my experience at that time, at that age. So moving through, I went to Ohio State for college, and when I moved to Columbus, mom and dad aren't there anymore to know if you go to church on Sundays or what you're doing in your free time. So naturally, a lot of guys struggle with, I wasn't showing up on Sundays. And, You know, I was living for the weekend. Like that's all through the week. You know, I'd get through school. I had good grades, whatever. But in my head, I was always like living for Thursday night, Friday, and Saturday, and like that was my life. And I thought, you know, this is so much fun. And I was having fun, but there was just something in there that was missing a little bit, and that void, which I've come to know as I got older, was Jesus. And it, in the moment, it was so much fun to go out with all my friends and party and experience all that stuff. And Ohio State, like during the fall time, man, it's a party, like game days every weekend. You getting up, like I started drinking at like 7 a.m. and then you drink like all day, and it's just crazy. And then I'd wake up the next morning and feel like shit. And that's when I wasn't going to church because I was hungover, and then it just spiraled. And you know, I'd always find myself like Sunday evenings, like, man, what am I doing? Like, I need to change something, because I wasn't happy when I was by myself, like away from the party and away from my friends. I wasn't genuinely happy. So I knew something needed to change. So I lacked so much discipline after my high school years, you know, those 4 years of college. Even a couple years after that, I just had no discipline in my life. It was, like I said, it was girls, partying, drinking. It was those things I thought that were so fun, that were making me happy, but ultimately they were not. So I want to talk to you guys a lot about discipline today, because I think for men it's the most important quality that we can carry and we can build to create real change in our lives, and change for the better, and change that's going to inspire other men. Because our world needs guys to step up and to start leading, you know, their friends and their families, their communities. And I think to be able to do that, we need discipline. So, discipline to me it's much more than just like self-control. You know, it's about becoming what God calls us to be. You know, there's so many different decisions you make in just your day-to-days that you can create discipline. You know, starts off right when you wake up. You know, how many guys are getting up when your alarm goes off? Are you getting up right away? Or how many times are pressing that snooze button? That's where it starts right away. So I had something on my phone about discipline that I wanted to share with you guys. And it's the weak man will rot in his own indulgence. They live for dopamine hits, cheap pleasures, and fleeting comfort, mistaking slavery for freedom. Every drink, porn session, skipped workout is another chain around their neck. And make no mistake, the enemy loves weak men. Weak men are easy to control and will gladly do the devil's bidding. The Christian man cannot afford that life. You were not created to be soft. You were not called to hide in comfort. You were made for battle, built for conflict. Discipline is not optional, it is foundational. It is the blade that cuts through temptation, the shield that guards against corruption, and the hammer that smashes decadence. The world has declared war on your masculine strength. It floods your mind with cheap porn meant to enslave your mental capacities, offers up cheap junk food to wreck your body, and endless distractions to hollow out the substance of your soul. And too many men gladly swallow the poison. They laugh while they decay. They call weakness normal and a good time. Every drop of sweat, every no to indulgence, every fasted day, every rep under the iron is rebellion. Every early morning, every prayer spoken through clenched teeth, every sacrifice is war against the decay of modern man. Discipline is how a man reclaims his power. It is how Christian men rise as leaders. protectors and warriors. Men, our sons can imitate and our daughters can trust. It is how we break the cycle of weakness and plant a standard of strength that cannot be ignored. This is about survival. This is about being the kind of man who can protect his family when the world burns. It is about building a body and spirit that cannot be broken, bought, or bent. Reject the poison, reject indulgence, reject weakness. Discipline is the way. Christ is the King. So I want you guys to kind of think about that as I talk. Just how important discipline in a man's life is. Discipline is choosing what you want most over what you want now. So it's a lot of times what you want now is so easy, it's right at your fingertips. But to ultimately achieve, whatever dreams and goals you guys have down the road, it takes discipline now. It takes discipline day to day to get to that point. It's not just going to happen. A man without discipline is a slave to his own weaknesses. So what are them weaknesses? For me, it was alcohol. And eventually, I'm like, okay, I'll cut down on alcohol. Well, then all of a sudden I started smoking more weed. And then it just, you can't replace one weakness with another weakness. So you got that. Junk food. Porn is a huge one. I know every guy 21 to 30 years old, I'm sure at some time, encounters that porn addiction because it's so easy, it's so accessible, it sucks, but that's how our world is. But when you got it in your pocket, at your hands, every day, and how men are built, it's just so easy to fall into that trap. So that would be a huge thing for me to say to you, is get that shit out of your life. When I stopped watching that when I got married, it just changes your mental clarity so much, and you start thinking about girls in a different way. And you might think that's weird, but it's so much better. And your relationships will work out so much better too, if you get that shit out of your life. What are some other weaknesses? Video games, a lot of guys struggle with. They can spend countless hours just sitting there, mind-numbing stuff. What can you be doing during that time that's going to lead you closer to God or help you become a better man? Strength isn't found in comfort, but in self-control and sacrifice. Without discipline, a man is defenseless and easily conquered by temptation and failure. So those things I just talked about, if you don't have any discipline in your life, you're going to fall into that trap over and over. And you're never going to get to where God wants you to be. Because God is calling all of us to be great. It's such a miracle that we're all here to walk the earth that God created. Think about that. How you're here. You don't want to be here just to go through life, going through the motions, and just all of a sudden you're old and you're dead. You want to look back on your life and think, now, what did I build? What did I experience? How did I not only make myself better, but how did I make others around me better? How did I lead my family? Someday when you guys have kids, you're going to want to be able to lead them to heaven, because that should be, if you're a believer in Jesus Christ, that's everyone's ultimate goal, is to get to heaven. And we're not going to get there if we're falling into these weaknesses and these temptations that this world has all around us. So the path to Christ is a path of discipline. And if you find yourself hard to get that steady relationship with God, or maybe you got a week where you get 15 minutes of prayer time in, and then all of a sudden the next month, you fall off and you don't get it done. And that's okay. But building discipline will help those fall-offs not happen. Because that was 2-3 years of my life after college. I would have a good month where I was, reading my Bible daily. I was getting some workouts in throughout the week. I was getting up earlier and trying to, pray before work. But then a couple weeks would go by and I would just fall off. And I'd get so upset at myself. But as you continue to build and get discipline into your life, you will notice that it's harder to have those fall-offs. You'll be more consistent, and you'll get that in your life every day. And then watch what happens. It'll be the momentum you gain and carry will lead to other aspects of your life. And it'll be tremendous. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 11 says, "For the moment all discipline seems painful rather than pleasant, but later it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness." So that kind of goes back to what I said, like, the decisions you're making in the moment, try to think about your aspirations and goals down the road. And in that moment, the decision you make, is that going to make you happy for 5 minutes? Or is that going to make you, fulfill you, and keep you happy 10, 20 years down the road? So try to incorporate things in your life that aren't just making you happy for a minute or 5 minutes or an hour. Think about, you want that eternal happiness, and that happens through Jesus. We got to have that relationship with Jesus because He is ultimate happiness. And you can see it. I know, like, when I was in college, one of my pet peeves around home was, everyone was just showing up to church. And it was like, you didn't see Jesus really through them. Or like, a couple times I did go to church in Columbus, the people that were there actually wanted to be there. They weren't like forced by the parents to go, or they weren't going because everyone else was going. So when I saw that, it kind of made me upset about, the people around home. It's like, I almost felt like they were just showing up to church so that other people weren't judging them. But if you don't want to be there, don't be there. I know that sounds crazy, like I'm telling you don't go to church, but don't just show up to church if you're doing it because you want other people to see you there. It's not going to help you. Find that daily discipline to find God in your life. And going to church and understanding everything that's happening in church is crucial, and that's huge. And that's when you develop your relationship with God through daily disciplines, you'll actually want to go to church. Like, those years I lived in Columbus, in high school sometimes, I didn't really want to go to church. But now, there were years where, I didn't go to Sunday Mass, and when I kind of got God back into my life and created those daily disciplines to get my Jesus fix in every day, all of a sudden I found myself wanting to go to church because I'm actually understanding how church leads us to heaven and how church makes us better Catholics. Like I said, discipline is built in small daily choices. Little disciplines become lifelong character. Wake up on time, pray. In the mornings, when you guys are waking up, what are you doing first? Are you praying, or are you grabbing your phone and checking everything you missed throughout the night, your Snapchats, what I missed on Instagram? That's been a big game changer for me. Is first thing in the morning, leave my phone down. I sit in my recliner, open up my Jesus Daily book. Some days I read the Bible, some days I literally just sit there. And that's honestly some of the best prayer that I experience is just listening. You don't constantly have to be like talking to God or asking Him for things. Sometimes just sit in your thoughts, just sit in quiet. Find that place where you can go do that. In the fall, my favorite place to do that is in the tree stand. Like, I like to deer hunt. And when I get up in the tree and I'm in nature and everything's so quiet, that's like my favorite place to pray. So I encourage you guys to find that spot, where you feel closest to God, or where you feel where you're just by yourself in your own thoughts. I encourage you guys to find that place. Comfort is the enemy of growth. So, in my men's group, we constantly are preaching to do hard things. So go out of if you're comfortable, you're probably not really gonna be the guy that's gonna excel in what he does because you're going through the motions and it's easy for you. We're born to push ourselves. We're born to get out of our comfort zone because that's how we get better. And that's how we're gonna change others around us. That's how we're gonna lead our sons. That's how we're gonna be good sons for our parents. That's how we're gonna be a good brother or a friend. Is to push yourself and find that edge. And Christ says this, Christ, how many times in the Bible does he say, deny yourself and pick up your cross and follow me? When he says pick up your cross, that's what he is saying, like, to get out of your comfort zone and challenge yourself. I think sometimes what helps me is when I don't want to get a workout in or I don't want to get up early and pray before work, I literally envision in my head Jesus on the cross, or Jesus carrying that cross. Like, if he can do that, I can get my ass out of bed at 5 or 5:30 in the morning and pray before work. Like, literally, that's helped me so much, is to get that picture in my head of all the suffering that Jesus endured for us. We're here, he died so that we can live. So if you can, that would be my, I guess if I have words of wisdom, that's one thing that's really helped me a lot, is to get that picture in my head of the sufferings of Jesus whenever you're going through a hard time or maybe something you don't want to do. Think of that, take a moment and be like, okay, I can do this. Let's get this done. And it's not easy. Our culture, today's world, they want men to be comfortable. They tell men to take the easy road. Don't challenge yourself. Avoid discomfort. That's what you see everywhere. Through your phones, through the vices. Alcohol, the vaping, like all these little things, pornography. Like, there's just so many things that they out there that makes men weak. And I guess that's some of my motivation why I'm here talking to you guys today, is because I want to be part of the generation that overcomes that and like, hey, let's push that shit away and not do that, and let's become strong men that are going to lead our communities and lead our families and ultimately make that change so that the next generation can grow up in a world that's all those little vices and things aren't right at their fingertips. So let's be the change, and that's why that's why when Alex asked me to come here and talk, like, am I comfortable doing this? No, not really. Like, I was nervous this morning when I woke up, and I don't do this much, but that's literally what I'm preaching, is to get out of your comfort zone. Get uncomfortable, because that's when real change is going to happen. So some things I guess I've done, and everything that I'm telling you guys today, like, I don't want you to think like I'm here and you guys are down here. I'm going through the same stuff. Like, it's daily. I'm trying to incorporate and build all these things in my life that I'm talking to you guys about discipline. I'm not here to say I've mastered it all, or I'm better because I have some discipline in my life. I'm just encouraging you because I so strongly believe that discipline for men is the greatest thing that's going to make a change. So some of the things I've done, back in 2020, I did 75 hard. I don't know if you guys ever heard that. But when I moved home from college, I weighed like 215 pounds. Graduated high school like 190, 195. So I was just like drinking and eating unhealthy all the time. Just mentally and physically felt like shit. So I saw this thing on the internet called 75 Hard, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna try that because I needed something. Through the little prayer time I was getting in, God was telling me like, hey, you need to make a change. So I'm like, all right, here's what I'm gonna do. 75 Hard. So it was, I don't remember quite all the disciplines that were involved, but for 75 days, you gotta get like 2 workouts in every day. 15 minutes of prayer time. I think there was like maybe some fasting. I don't know. You guys can look it up. It's called 75 Hard. But that was one of the things I did. And then I completed a 72-hour water fast. So, Jesus fasted a lot, and he talks a lot about fasting in the Bible. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to try this. So I fasted for 72 hours, didn't eat any food. And the first 24 hours were the hardest part because we're just so used to having 3 meals a day. And then you get to that second day and the third day, and it's like, you actually don't need that. Like, I'm not saying it's healthy to fast all the time, but it also, like, the mental clarity I gained and all the discipline that I achieved through those 72 hours of every time in my head I wanted to eat, but telling that little bitch voice, like, no, you're going 72 hours, you don't need to eat, you're fine. It helped me tremendously. Not only did physically I feel a lot better, and there are health benefits to it, like, it flushes out your system, and when you fast, it just starts eating away fat on your body. So it was just a good thing for me, and I'm not saying that you guys have to fast for 72 hours, but maybe just try fasting like through lunch. Just start with like 1 day a week. That's an easy way to create some easy discipline. And when you complete it, mentally in your head, you just feel good. It's like, all right, I did that. Now let's do it again next week and keep stacking those wins. And eventually, maybe you'll want to do like a full day fast. And I do a lot of fasting around Easter time because Jesus really talks about it when he was making those sacrifices. So I'm like, this is a good time for me to sacrifice and fast. I did Exodus 90. Another thing I would encourage you guys to do. That one was a lot harder than 75 Hard, and it requires you to lean on, find a good group of men and lean on them, and you got to talk to them and ask them to help you through weak times because it's not easy. And that was part of Exodus 90 is there's no alcohol, there's no TV, the only music you can listen to is Christian music. You got to take cold showers. No eating in between meals. You have a spiritual buddy that you're partnered up with through the journey, and you gotta text him or talk to him every day. You gotta have 15 minutes. You gotta read through the book of Exodus and spend 15 minutes with God every day. I know I'm forgetting some, but it was a great challenge that really changed my life in a good way. So that's something I would recommend. I know Alex's dad was actually in my group. Paul, great guy, but he had done it a couple times before me. So it was good to have those guys in my group to lean on. You want to quit like halfway through. You don't realize how long 90 days is to not watch TV and to take cold showers and to do that stuff. So. And then another hard thing I've done was this past year, I ran a half marathon over in Indianapolis. And my whole life, I've hated running. Never been a runner. So the training I had to do to be able to run that half marathon built so much discipline in my life because I knew on race day to get across that finish line my goal was to not have to walk. And I knew to achieve that goal, I had to train because I started with running, like my first day of training was 1 mile. And like, it was hard because I hadn't ran 1 mile in a long time. So it was very hard to train for the half marathon, but it built so much discipline in my life. So again, I preach, do hard things. Find hard things in your life and do them because it's going to help you out so much. So through these things, it helped me grow not only mentally and physically, but spiritually as well. Because you gotta you got to rely on God when times get tough and it's hard, and you need someone to rely on, and God's always there for us. That's the best part. He is that one friend that's never going to leave your side. He's always there. And as you guys get older and you go through phases where your high school friends become fairly distant, and even college friends that can become distant. Yeah, you'll have a few that stick around, but it's just hard. And then you find yourself kind of like with a smaller circle, and that can be hard when maybe you're a popular kid and a lot of people know you and are always like wanting to reach out, want to hang out with you. But what they're doing with their life is not where you want to go. So that, I think, can be the hardest thing for men to overcome, is you got to drop some of these friends to get on the path that God is calling you to be on. And it's not easy. No one suddenly becomes a godly man. Godly men are built one disciplined decision at a time. But God doesn't ask for perfection. He asks for faithfulness. And we're going to fail, but that's why God gives us grace. It's okay to fail. We're not perfect. We're sinners. God knows that. So when you, hopefully after today, and as you guys continue to build discipline in your life, it's awesome to see you guys here, because when I was your age, I wasn't in these places. I wasn't making time to come and spend my Saturday mornings doing this. I was probably either hungover or, I don't know, working or doing something where, probably working to make money so that I could go out Saturday night. I was in that lifestyle. So again, it's awesome to see you guys here. Like, I'm really proud of you guys. But our families don't need, your families and your friends, they don't need perfect men. They need faithful men. Our world doesn't need more men chasing comfort. It needs more men willing to carry the cross with courage. So how was I going to do this? After college, there was like 1 to 2 years there where I still was just like, wild, just partying and drinking and everything was number one. But then always knew in the back of my mind, because of my upbringing, my parents, being amazing, I knew how important Jesus and God was in my life. And I always, told myself through my younger years, like, I'll get there, I'll do that. I'll do that maybe when I'm like 30 or 40 or something. But God wants us now. He wants you guys now to make a change, because there's so many young men who need it. And our world is calling for it and needs it so bad. So after this couple years after college, I shouldn't say met, but my wife now, Katie. I knew her, through high school and college and stuff. The vibe was always great whenever we hung out together, but never really, it was never like the dating vibe, or like marry that person. But then our paths crossed, those couple years after college, where I was like in the lowest point of my life, and we just, as friends, hung out and just had really good conversation about our lives and our struggles. And come to find out, she was kind of having the same struggles as I was, and we were, with the decisions we were making on weekends and who we were surrounding ourselves with, and knowing that God had bigger plans for us. So after that night, it like lit a spark, I think, in both of us, where we were both kind of at low points and wanted to build ourselves up just to be better people. And so that's kind of how our love story started. And after that, we just kind of hung out more and more, and really just fell in love with each other. And still to this day, we're pushing ourselves to, she pushes me. When you find a good woman, they push you to be the best man you can be, and vice versa. And those things are huge. for relationship. So that's kind of where, when I met Katie, is where my life, I feel like, started to go back up in a positive, better direction. And that's where I started to do, small things, more than I was doing. I was in like a small men's group, like when Full Bodies, I don't know if you guys heard of Full Bodies, but when like that was starting, I kind of was going to some of their meetings and got into a little group with them. I was going to church more consistently. I was reading my Bible more consistently. So I've carried that momentum into, who I am now. And so I guess it leads to the next thing I want to talk about is my men's accountability group, which is kind of what Alex is starting here, what he wants you guys to build out. So 2 years ago, I started this, we started my men's accountability group, and it's been the biggest positive change I've had in my life that's really helped me become the man I am today, and to be able to sit here and talk to you guys. So the name of my men's group is called Forge, and what our structure kind of looks like is we meet every Friday, or every other Friday. We meet every 2 weeks, Friday mornings at 5 a.m. And there's no canceling, there's no rescheduling. We're there. We got to do it. And if there's things that happen, guys can't make it, but still, whoever can't make it, they show up every Friday morning or every other Friday morning at 5 a.m. And we start off our meetings, with prayer like we did today, and then we go through some wins we've had in our lives, as well as maybe a thing or two we're struggling with. I encourage you to have conversation with other men. It's not easy. A lot of guys think like that's weird to share your feelings and things like that with other guys, but it's very important to do. And it's actually strong to be able to do that as a man, to share your emotions and your feelings with other guys. And guys that'll probably make fun of you, but they're the ones that are going to look at you in 10 years and be like, man, I wish I was like that. So I encourage you to talk and find your brothers. So our core values are faithful, endurance, obedience, responsibility, and grit. The core values of Forge. And faithful, so we remain steadfast to the Lord. We hold our promise to keep Him at our core. Endurance is the confidence to have integrity and stand firm in our beliefs. Obedience is the self-control to find freedom through discipline. Responsibility, to live to make a difference. And grit, do not rely on luck, fate for success. You gotta earn it. Success is not just gonna happen. You gotta earn that shit, and it takes a lot of hard work. So our vision statement for our men's group is to pray hard, do hard things, and build brotherhood. And so how are we doing this in my men's group? Well, we have, we call it our Forge tracker. So just in Google Sheets, we have a tracker where all of us have access to, and so that we can see, how other guys are doing. And in this tracker, there's 3 things, that are required. One of them is a 30-minute workout, no less than 3 times a week. The second one is to read an educational book or listen to a podcast, one or the other, for 15 minutes on the weekdays, Monday through Friday. And the third non-negotiable that we do is prayer or reflection, also for 15 minutes, and that one's daily, 7 times a week, to get that prayer time in because it's so important. And then we have 3 to 4 that are kind of personalized to your own thing you can do. Like right now, mine is Bible time, 15 minutes of a reading of my Bible 3 times a week. 50 push-ups every day, and then to journal before bed 3 times a week. I know you guys might think like journaling, it's like, that's kind of weird, but like, it's been a good routine for me to get in, like before I go to bed, like, how was my day? What did I do good today? What's something I struggled with? And just to write those thoughts down can be helpful. So that's what we have in our Google Sheets tracker. We just put check marks in boxes as we complete them throughout the day. And then other guys, the other guys, we have 7 guys in my men's group, and they can all see each other's charts. So if we see like one guy not getting something, like not checking very many boxes off, we just check in. We don't like make fun of them or get mad at them for doing it. It's just like, hey, let's try to be better. Is there anything we can, where can we help? How can we help hold you accountable? Do you need a text like in the morning or in the evening to do X, Y, Z? Stuff like that. We've met, so we meet, one of the guys in my group is in Columbus, so we meet just through like a Google FaceTime meeting or whatever. And then we try to meet in person like once a quarter. And then at those meetings, they're a little more detailed, and we go into, some of what bigger goals do we have, with this group? How can Forge, have an effect on, guys your age, or how can we get, how can guys, look to us, for help on how to build out their accountability trackers, or, the ultimate goal of Forge is to, spread to all young men throughout our area the word of Jesus, how to be disciplined with our lives, and really just how to be good sons of God, sons of your mom and dad. How can we be better brothers? How can we be better husbands? How can we be better fathers? That's the whole goal, and you're not going to get there by yourself. So that is the whole point of getting your accountability groups, getting that 6 to 8 guys where you can open up and talk about your struggles, because all of us have them. You're a liar if you say you don't struggle with stuff, but it's better to talk about it rather than keep it all inside, because it's eventually going to lead you. If you keep it all in, you're going to try to handle it by drinking or smoking or whatever that vice is. So find a better way to handle that. We think that is through building brotherhood. And some of the things that the guys in my group, like, we want to do, like, some of our goals is to, like, we want to take a weekend, with just us guys to go, go hiking somewhere, or like go kayaking, and just, start our mornings off with prayer, and then like make a big brunch, and then just go do like guy stuff with, with a good group of buddies. So that's our goal, to start doing more of that. We have goals to try to, how can we incorporate our wives or our girlfriends into this? How can we incorporate, the community aspect of it? We talked about like, just posting on Instagram, which, by the way, follow us on Instagram. It's Forge_men's group. But just posting on there and be like, hey, we're meeting up at Range Park Saturday morning at 7 a.m. We're going to get a 2-mile run in. Whatever guys show up. We'll go get 2 miles in, and maybe that'll lead to a connection or a relationship with someone else. Who knows? So those are some of the things that we're trying to incorporate, and I just can't stress enough how important finding brotherhood, finding an accountability group to build the discipline in your life. Because like I said, I think, to me, if I was to tell you guys to do anything of how you can become a better man, it's to get discipline in your life. So that's really all I got. Does anyone have like questions, or just questions for me, or comments? Anything? Come on, I know you guys do. What's up, Max?
So you said after college is kind of when you started to think of your discipline how did you go about that? Like, was there something that just clicked, or because I know you didn't start the accountability group, you said like a couple years ago. Was there something that just clicked, or how did you hold yourself accountable until you found that group?
Well, the first part was when I met Katie, and when I knew I wanted to develop a deeper relationship with her and maybe marry her. That made me want to change as a man. So, and I knew if I wanted to marry her someday, I had to change what I was doing. So that was one thing that helped me. Other accountability things were I would reach out to, I didn't have my group yet, but I had, like Jason Brunswick was one guy I would text. Honestly, my dad was a good one I would go to. I tried to find, just one or two guys that I could just talk to a little bit. So that helped me with some accountability. And then at the time, at that age, honestly, my younger brother Dane was another motivational thing for me. Because at that time, he was whatever, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. And I wanted to be a good example for him. So that helped hold me accountable. I had to get rid of some people in my life that were previously in it. That helped me after I developed some of this discipline and accountability. It helped me stay on track a little more. So those are the main things I would say. So if you guys don't have anything, we'll break into.
Okay. Yeah. Do you have any advice for guys? Because there's a lot of guys in here who are either in college or starting college or something like that. So a lot of your, discipline and forming a group came after college. Do you think there's any advice you could give to someone who's trying to have this be applicable in their college life?
Yeah. When you're in college, try to develop like a gym routine or physical exercise routine. Going to the gym, not only physically, but mentally helps a lot. So that's one thing I would say to do is to keep your physical health good, get in a gym routine. 2 is block out that time of your day. I don't even care if you need to start out with 5 minutes. 5 minutes in prayer. And it can, like I said, it can just be listening, sitting in silence, or just talk with God a little bit. Or, how we're brought up around here, say some Our Fathers, Hail Marys, and Glory Bees. Never fails. But just get that in your life. So physical activity, prayer time, and then find good hobbies. Not everything needs to be like, so serious and, how do I want to word this? Like, think you constantly got to be like doing everything to, live for God. Like, find what you like doing and do those things, because those things make you happy. Don't do things you don't like doing just to fit in with other people. So find good hobbies, I would say, and use those hobbies though to try to glorify God, or not live in a way where you're going to separate yourself from God. But yeah, I think in college, I wish, like looking back, I wish I would have had more of a gym routine. Like I didn't work out at all or do it like run or anything like that in college. That just builds so much mental toughness, I think. So try to do something like that. And then, just your spiritual life, incorporate that every day. Start with 5 minutes and see what you can build up to.
Awesome.
When we break into small groups, I have a couple questions that I want you guys to talk about or just think about. And those are, what distractions most often pull you away from God? You think about those things and talk about it in your group. Why do you think Jesus emphasized denying ourselves and taking up our cross daily? it's just in the Bible and in his teaching so often. So think about why it's in there so often. Probably means it's pretty important. Why is it difficult for men to ask for accountability? I want you guys to talk about that. And then the last one is, what is one daily habit you can start tomorrow that will help you become the man God is calling you to be? So when you get in your groups, I want you guys to think about that and tell your buddies one thing that you think you might do. Start incorporating into your daily life. That's going to lead you closer to God. Because it's not going to happen overnight. Discipline, it's a lifelong journey. But the earlier you can start building it, the better you're going to be. So thanks for listening, guys. Thanks again for being here this morning. It's cool to see. Like I said, I'll be 30 in a month, so I can really start doing stuff like what you guys are doing still, 2, 3, 4 years ago. So it's cool to see. Keep up the good work.